June 6, 1944. The ramp drops and bam, we are instantly plunged right into the visceral, terrifying chaos of Omaha Beach. Men are screaming to clear the murder holes as they jump over the sides of their landing crafts into bloody waters. It is literally an absolute slaughter. These American soldiers are facing down heavily fortified German machine gun positions, desperate to find even an inch of cover on a beach where every single grain of sand has already been pre-sighted by the enemy.
Now, far away from all that blood and sand, the emotional stakes of this whole story are being set in a quiet office at the War Department. General George C. Marshall reads this profoundly moving letter written by Abraham Lincoln to a Mrs. Bixby, a mother who lost 5 sons in the Civil War. Marshall recites Lincoln's prayer that God might assuage her anguish, and in doing so, he prepares to authorize a mission that completely defies conventional military logic, all to prevent another mother from suffering that same kind of total, devastating loss.
So, we're pulled right back onto the bloody sand at the Dog 1 exit of Omaha Beach. Captain John Miller and his men are trapped in an absolute meat grinder. The sea is right at their backs, and those murder holes are straight ahead. The first wave is just completely ineffective, you know? Units are all mixed up with leftovers from multiple different companies, and the men are just pinned down under a relentless firing squad.
And here's why it was so bad. The invasion plan actually expected 32 of these dual-drive tanks to float right up to the beach and give the infantry some much-needed armored cover. But in a staggering, heartbreaking failure, 27 of those tanks foundered and sank right to the bottom of the channel. Because of this catastrophic loss, the infantry was left completely exposed on the sand with absolutely no armor to hide behind.
This unbelievable chaos sets the stage for highly specific, unprecedented family tragedy. 3 telegrams are all headed to one mother in Iowa on the exact same day. Daniel Ryan killed in New Guinea, Sean Ryan killed at Omaha Beach, and Peter Ryan killed at Utah Beach. But there is a 4th brother, James. He parachuted in with the 101st Airborne deep behind German lines in Normandy. Assuming he even survived those chaotic misdrops, the War Department determines they absolutely have to find him and get him out.
So the mission basically boils down to a piece of brutal arithmetic. Captain Miller, who literally just survived the impossible odds of Omaha Beach, is immediately handed a new, seemingly impossible task. He has to take a squad of just 8 men, even picking up a translator, Corporal Upham, who hasn't so much as held a weapon since basic training, and venture deep behind enemy lines to save one single private.
As the squad heads out, they obviously start to question the math here. Why risk 8 lives to save 1? When asked to explain the sense of it, Corporal Upham borrows a line from Tennyson, saying, "There's not to reason why. There's but to do and die." It perfectly highlights the squad's simmering resentment. They're soldiers, right? So their duty supersedes everything. Even if they genuinely feel this mission is a massive misallocation of valuable resources, they are risking everything for a ghost.
This journey quickly drags them into the rubble-strewn streets of Neville. The town is highly contested, literally cut right in half by German reinforcements, and heavy sniper fire is just ringing out everywhere. It's right here, navigating through the debris and the pouring rain, that the squad experiences their first tragic toll under the constant, terrifying threat of hidden snipers.
And we see how the journey quickly exacts a terrible moral cost. Private Caparzo tries to do the decent thing, right? He tries to rescue this terrified French girl from her pleading family. But Captain Miller violently enforces rigid discipline, screaming that they are not there to do the decent thing. They're strictly there to follow orders. And in that split second of fatal compassion, Caparzo is gunned down by a German sniper. Just like that, the mission has claimed its first life.
Following this incredibly devastating loss, we get introduced to the defining term of their entire reality, FUBAR. It's this cynical piece of military slang that perfectly captures exactly how the squad views their chaotic circumstances. I mean, they are wandering the Normandy countryside, literally picking through piles of dog tags from dead airborne soldiers, searching for a needle in a stack of needles. Everything around them is just FUBAR.
The creeping dread only intensifies when the squad stumbles across a heavily sandbagged German radar station. Positioned right below it is an MG-42 machine gun nest, and scattered all around it are the bodies of dead American paratroopers from the 82nd Airborne. The tension really sets in as the squad realizes they have to make a very tough choice here.
Captain Miller is facing an agonizing tactical dilemma. He could easily bypass the nest, keep his squad safe, and just continue the mission to find Ryan. But the heavy burden of command dictates that if he leaves that machine gun there, it's absolutely going to ambush the next Allied company that comes along.
So Miller chooses the objective to win the larger war, forcing him to risk the lives of his own men.
They pull off the assault on the machine gun nest, but man, the cost is devastating. The squad's medic, Wade, takes a fatal hit to his liver. Despite their frantic, blood-soaked efforts to pack the wound with sulfa powder and hit him with morphine, they just can't save him. Wade's heartbreaking final cries for his mother just utterly shatter whatever is left of the squad's morale.
In the aftermath of all this, a near mutiny breaks out when Miller decides to let their surviving German prisoner just walk away blindfolded. Weapons are literally drawn between the American men. To defuse this incredibly explosive tension, Captain Miller finally answers the squad's long-running betting pool and reveals his civilian identity. He's a schoolteacher. He explains that every single man he kills makes him feel farther away from home, reminding his men of the humanity they're slowly losing day by day. He figures if saving Private Ryan earns him the right to get back to his wife, well then that is his mission.
And you can see how every single day takes a grueling physical and emotional toll. From surviving the absolute massacre of Omaha on day 1, to losing Caparzo to those snipers in Newville on day 2, and then losing Wade at the radar station on day 3. By day 4, battered, exhausted, and deeply disillusioned, they finally reach the outskirts of their destination, Rommel.
Entering Rommel, this incredibly surreal moment unfolds. After a brief skirmish with a German recon element, Miller's decimated squad finally locates Private James Francis Ryan. But here's the catch. Ryan isn't just sitting around waiting to be rescued. He's actively defending a vitally important bridge across the Murderette River alongside this ragtag, severely understrength airborne unit.
Captain Miller pulls him aside and delivers the devastating news about Ryan's brothers, telling him he's got a ticket home. But Ryan completely refuses to abandon his post. He looks right at Miller and asks, "Why do I deserve to go? Why not any of these guys?" He flat out refuses to leave the only brothers he has left in the world. And that forces Captain Miller, and honestly, all of us watching, to confront the heavy moral weight of duty versus privilege.
So now Miller is caught in this profound clash of objectives. His strict primary orders are to extract Ryan and bring him home, but the reality on the ground dictates that holding this bridge is absolutely vital to stop German armor from flanking the Allied advance. Miller realizes that staying to defend this bridge with Ryan might actually be the one decent thing they can pull out of this god-awful, messy war. So they make the call. They decide to stay.
With barely any heavy weapons to speak of, Miller devises a brilliant, downright desperate tactical defense. First, they're going to draw the armor into a bottleneck in the rubble. Second, they'll disable the tank tracks to turn them into 60-ton roadblocks. Third, use machine guns up high and in defilade to isolate the infantry. And fourth, when they inevitably get overwhelmed, fall back to the Alamo position right at the bridge.
To actually accomplish this without proper anti-tank weapons, they turn to some real gritty ingenuity, creating what they call sticky bombs. They literally cram standard-issue GI socks full of explosives, rig up a fuse, and coat the whole thing in axle grease so it sticks right to the tank tracks. It is desperate, improvised warfare at its absolute finest. But then the rumbling starts approaching, and the terrifying odds become painfully clear. The German forces arrive in overwhelming numbers. We're talking 2 massive Tiger tanks, multiple Panzer tanks, over 50 mechanized infantry, and a devastating 20mm flak gun. The ruined streets of Rommel instantly turn into an absolute slaughterhouse the second the battle begins.
Miller's plan actually works initially, but the sheer brute force of the German armor is just way too much. The American perimeter collapses violently. Men are killed in brutal hand-to-hand combat and just blown apart by tank shells. The surviving members of the squad are forced to retreat to their final fallback position, desperately calling out, "Alamo, Alamo." The bridge is rigged to blow and time is completely run out. In a final desperate stand, a severely wounded Captain Miller tries to shoot a detonator to blow the bridge as a massive Tiger tank rolls directly toward him. Just moments before he is killed, Allied P-51 tank busters roar overhead, saving the bridge and the few remaining men. As Ryan rushes over to Miller's side, the dying captain pulls the young private close and delivers these heavy, unforgettable final words. "Earn this." It cements the ultimate cost of the mission and places a lifelong, heavy burden on the sole survivor.
Decades later, an elderly James Ryan stands over Captain Miller's grave in the Normandy cemetery. Haunted by the sacrifice of the men who gave their lives just to give him his, he turns to his wife and pleads with her to answer this crushing question. "Tell me I've led a good life. Tell me I'm a good man."
And it just leaves us to ponder if any single life can ever truly be worthy of such a monumental, FUBAR sacrifice.